Line number 2 was that my voice had no value. A couple of years later, 13 years old, and who remembers being a 13-year-old girl? We're a little feisty. So I took it upon myself to stand up on a stage. And I got booed off the stage because I was just a stupid girl and nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. The third big lie was that my value was in my womb. My womb had been tainted. It had been violated against my will. And at 17, I had no value. That familiar voice in my head gave me hope for a better life. So instead of jumping, I ran away from home. Did the smart thing. I figured out I jumped in the back of a car and drove away in the middle of the night. I had no money, no education, no social skills. I mean, no social skills. I've never even eaten at a restaurant before. And the only thing I had was the dream of a better life and my looks. But I didn't even know I had my looks. I had no idea that I was even attractive because as a child, I wasn't even allowed to look in the mirror. I wasn't allowed to be proud of myself. I wasn't allowed to think of myself. I had no concept of self-awareness. So all I had was a dream of a better life and a fierce determination. They didn't break me. So I didn't have any confidence, but I knew there were things I needed to do. I got a social security number. I got my GED. I got my first job. I got my first apartment. I put myself in college over all of the disapproval of my parents. My dad actually said to me, "No daughter of mine is going to college, young lady, now you come home." And I said, "Then I'll get somebody else to sign the papers," because I was only 17. And that was the beginning of learning who I really am and what I'm really capable of. See, I grew up in an environment where women couldn't do anything. I didn't know any women who worked. I didn't know any women who had an education. I didn't know any women who went to college. I didn't know anything except for the women around me who all had a dozen kids and never left the community because most of them didn't even know how to drive. But somehow there was something inside of me knew that I could do anything a boy could do. That's actually why I got booed off the stage, because I said that in front of an audience and they did not appreciate that. And so somehow I knew that. And then eventually I got a better paying job and a better paying job. And then I started my first company. And then I started my second company. And I started becoming the woman I'd always hoped I could be. I didn't have any examples of it growing up, but somehow inside of me I knew there was something possible that wanted to be birthed through me. And then I wrote my first book. And then I got on television for the first time. And then I got on stage for the first time. And then I wrote my next book. And so now I've been on television stages all over the world. I've been on all these television stations, and I get to be here with all of you. I consider this the greatest privilege that I get to be here with you. I didn't jump.